Well, there's no doubt that this guy is a true legend of the game. A lot of times people get referred to as a legend. They think, well, that must mean I'm really old. Bryan Helmer is not really old, but he is an absolute legend. 1,116 American Hockey League games. That's most by a defenseman in the history of the league. More points, more this and that and everything else. And Bryan Helmer, who is now the vice president of hockey operations for the Hershey Bears, a former Griffin, is chatting with us from Hershey, Pennsylvania. It's so good to see you, and what an honor to be on with a true legend.
Oh, thanks, Bob. I really appreciate it. And obviously, very lucky to play as long as I did and stay healthy and meet a lot of great people along the way, like yourself, and a lot of fans and people in Grand Rapids. The 2 years I was there, I enjoyed it. I had a house there, and going back there in the last couple seasons there when we played you guys, it was pretty special to see the building and see people that I hadn't seen in a long, long time. So it's nice to be on here.
Well, you got the building in the background. I had to have a little hockey backdrop. Heck, you're not even getting in the Giant Center in Hershey that much these days, are you?
No, they've tried to keep us out. They want us to stay away as much as possible, work at home if we can. And yeah, I've been in there probably 4 or 5 times. It's pretty sad to walk in and no one's there and obviously no ice and that sort of stuff. So hopefully got my fingers crossed, and I'm pretty an optimistic guy and hoping we can get something in here sooner than later.
Well, we're fortunate. A shout out to Rich McKeegan, who runs the building here, and for SMG to allow us to do these interviews inside this great building. As you know, it's a great facility, and you, of course, the legend, Helms. You think about, and you've certainly earned the legendary status, given 90 plus years in this league, and to be ranked as high as you are in so many statistical categories. I mean, I was doing the math today. There were 1,118 players in the American Hockey League just last year alone. Now put it 90 plus seasons. You're in a class by yourself.
Well, I appreciate that. Obviously, Kaser, it's again, to play as long as I did, and I played on a lot of good teams. So, that helped me out for sure. Obviously winning the 2 cups back-to-back here in Hershey prolonged my career too. So, very fortunate, very happy. I don't think I'd change anything for the world.
Yeah, 1,300 plus games in your career, including NHL and 50 games or so in the IHL, good old Kansas City. Among those stops, you think about the number of games, but also the championship, 7 times to the conference finals, in the playoffs. You lead all time in playoff games played by any player in the American Hockey League, and those 3 Calder Cups, including the 2 in Hershey. It's just so special for you to be back in one of the great hockey cities in North America.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very fortunate to have the job that I have, and the 2 years I was here, obviously met a lot of great people, stayed in touch after I left, and to have the opportunity to come back in 2014-15 as an assistant coach with Troy Mann, who was my head coach in 2010 when we won. And, it's a special place here in Hershey, and people are passionate. They want you to win every night, and they expect you to win every night. And I tell our players, if they go out and they play really hard and do the best job they can, our fans won't say too much. But if they go out and dog it, our fans will let them know. So I think if it would have been any other spot in the American League rather than Grand Rapids, I don't know if I would have came back. I know my family was, at the end of my career, was pretty done with traveling and moving around, but they're troopers. Pam, my wife, my son Cade, and my daughter Rylan are pretty special people, and they said, Dad, we'll do whatever you want to do. So they gave me the opportunity to come back down to Hershey, and we've been happy ever since.
Well, it's such an honor to have you and Pam and your kids here. Of course, Cade was 4, 5, 6, I think, when you were here playing. I remember, he was a rink rat, that kid. He was all eyes, all ears. He just wide-eyed little guy, watching everything, observing everything. And now he's still playing some junior hockey, maybe knocking on the door of a D1 school here at some point in the next year or so.
Yeah, that was a pretty special year. He was going into, I think he had kindergarten on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, and he came to the rink, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and every time I could get him down there. And I remember he'd sit in on meetings and sit on my lap and listen to Greg Ireland.
Yeah, Greg used to let him in the only thing short of conducting meetings.
It was true.
He's a part of everything.
He was, and I can still remember going into the playoffs. I came up to Greg and said, Greg, do I still bring Kate around? He's like, absolutely. He's part of the team. So, that's how special that team was in 05-06. I think looking back at my career, I think that was probably the best team that never won that I played on. It was incredible. It was a great time. And I really, really enjoyed my time in Grand Rapids. And obviously my daughter was born there too. So that makes it special too.
When we just talked to you and I were visiting before we started the recording this, visiting with Don McLean the other day, a teammate of yours on that 05-06 team. His thought was, give Milwaukee all the credit in the world. Pekka Rinne led the way for that team, but injuries certainly didn't help matters much. But it didn't get in the way of, I'm actually looking up at the banner right now, the Mackenzie Trophy for regular season champions. Pretty special 05-06 team. Maybe the best team that didn't win in the 24-plus year history of this franchise.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it was tough. I know when we lost Donnie there for that last round was really tough. He was coming off a heck of a year with 56 goals, and if you look at that list, I think there was 8 guys that had 20 goals that season. So, it was a pretty special team. And I always tell the story about Jiri Hudler, and Hoods was quite a character, and we'd be down maybe a goal going into the third period, and I'd look at him, and he'd be like, "We're going to be all right." And sure enough, I'd be, "What are you going to give us?" And he'd be like, "I'm going to get a goal and an assist." And sure enough, he'd get a goal and an assist, and we'd win the game. So it was just stuff like that. Having characters like that in our dressing room is pretty special.
He was a goofball. He sat behind me on the bus, and I told people, you close your eyes and you thought it was a 14-year-old sitting behind you, which he wasn't far from that actually at that time. And that isn't being critical of him. He's just a fun-loving kid, and certainly was a heck of a hockey player. And man, that team was just so special. I mean, I think you had 56 points that year, which still stands as the most by a defenseman in the 20-plus history of this franchise.
Yeah, again, it was a special year, and it was a good team. When you're playing good teams and the team does well, individuals are going to do well, and I benefited from it. I get the puck and throw it up to our forwards, and they do the rest. So it made me look good, and but it was a lot of fun, not just on the ice, but off the ice too. I think every guy, if you ask them today, they would say, it was a great time back then, and we just had so much fun together, and that's why we had so much success.
Can you comment quickly, Bryan, on, they're just most hockey players, as we've characterized over the years and fans know, are just incredible human beings, all about giving back and, respectful and approachable, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You're an exception to that, not an exception to that. You're exceptional in that category, having won awards all over the place, including here for your community service. What does that part of it mean to you?
It means a lot. I mean, that's one thing, you're playing a sport, and these fans are paying money to come and see, and your community is your fans. And, if whatever we can do as a hockey player or as an organization to get out there and give back, we want to do that. And that was one thing when, I learned from great veteran leadership in Albany when I first came in. Guys, would bring me out to do readings in schools and visit hospitals and stuff like that. And, Kevin Dean, who's the assistant coach in Providence, was my captain. I learned a lot from him. And just there's so many other guys I could talk about. But, it's important to do that sort of stuff. And I enjoyed it. I remember I started Helmer's Heroes in Grand Rapids because I saw my daughter go through a blood transfusion. You see these kids, you go in there and they're fighting cancer, and I had the resources to do something, and I remember coming back and trying to do something and ended up buying some season tickets and having some kids that got better out of the hospital come to see the games, and brought them down to the dressing room. So that was pretty special when I started that, and with the help of you guys to make that go. And then I just kept it going as I went on to different cities. So it was pretty special for me.
No doubt, not surprised at all that you're still in this game, and well, you should be, because you're such a credit to the game and to humankind for that matter. I know you have such a passion for the game, Helms. 20 years of hockey. Amazingly, you played just about every game every year. You avoided injury for the most part, and we can bring that up now because you're not playing anymore, although it might put the hex on you for your men's league games. But, it's remarkable that you did play as many games as you did during that 20 years. But I'm guessing it was still, knowing how much you love the game, extremely hard for you to hang up the skates, wasn't it?
It really was, Kaser. I mean, I can go back to my last year in Springfield, and I came in late after after they had the lockout was up, and got off to a pretty slow start, and it didn't come easy for me, but I still love the game. I still wanted to play, and sometimes it takes a season where you struggle, and you kind of step back and realize, hey, I've been fortunate to stay this healthy through 20 years. Maybe I should stop pushing things. And I knew at the time after I stepped back that I couldn't play the game anymore. The young kids were starting to take over. They were becoming quicker and faster, and the game was going in a different direction than I was. So, I had a great conversation with Pam after that season, decided to hang it up. But, looking back, I would never change anything. And I was so fortunate to play so long and play with so many great teams, and just enjoyed my career and everything that I did. And, I'm very humble to sit here and talk to you about it, and you call me a legend and all the good stuff you're saying. So I'll send you a paycheck or something in the mail to make up for that, or I'll get you tickets at Hershey Park.
Hershey Park hotel and Hershey Park tickets will be just fine by me, and a bag of chocolates will work as well. I think one of the most special times in your career, I'm guessing, along the way, as I mentioned, you played 140 or so games in the National Hockey League. Many of those before Cade was born, or shortly after he was born, so you didn't remember it. I remember, him asking you, Dad, when am I going to see you play in the NHL? And all of a sudden, at 36, you get a call from the Washington Capitals. And by this time, Cade's around 6-7 years old. He gets to see his dad play in the National Hockey League, and I'm sure he remembers that very, very well.
Yeah, that was pretty special. Obviously, there was a reason why I never went over to Europe. Guys would ask me, why don't you go over to Europe? And I still had the drive to try to make it back to the NHL, just to show Cade that, I played in the NHL where he can remember it. And, when I got that call, I still remember it was the day after Thanksgiving, and I got a call from Don Fisherman, and I didn't answer it at the time because I was a 201 number, and I didn't really know who it was. So I let it go to voicemail. And after I got the voicemail, I was like, called Bob Woods, who was our head coach at the time, and said, Woody, is this true, or is somebody playing a joke on me? And he said, no, you deserve it. And at the time, I was only on an American League deal, so they ended up signing me to an NHL deal, and I played against Montreal the next night. And obviously, I played a lot of games in the American Hockey League after they did the new rule change, but I hadn't played in the NHL, so I was a little nervous going in. And Bruce Boudreau actually started me that game, and so I was on the blue line for the national anthems, both national anthems. So the nerves were going, but once the puck dropped and I settled in, I enjoyed it, and my family was there to see it, and it brought a pretty big smile to Cade's face. I remember after the call, I went into his bedroom and told him that I was getting called up to the NHL, and it was pretty special. I wish I would have had it on video, but I didn't. But so he got to see me play, and he's got the drive now to do something with his career, and hopefully he'll have success too.
Yeah, and we wish him and all of you the best, Bryan. I mean, people know I've been around this game a long time. I've met some special people. You are in the top 5 of my favorite of all time. I mean, and I've met thousands of hockey players and executives in this business, and with all due respect to all of them, Bryan Helmer is a success story for a reason. He's a good human being, great human being, and a great executive. What an ambassador for the game of hockey, and we're honored again to have had you here, and I'm so happy you're still in this game, Bryan. You're such a credit to the sport of hockey.
Well, I appreciate that, Kaser. I really do. And like I said, the 2 years I was in Grand Rapids were 2 special years, and a lot of great memories, with you guys and yourself. And, I wish you guys all the best too.
All right. We'll see you soon.
Hopefully
we'll have some hockey get the Bears and the Griffins back on the schedule again.
I'll try my best.
Heck, right now we'll take 25 games against the Wolves and 25 against Milwaukee. Let's just play some hockey, right?
I hear you for sure.
And you'll take 25 with Wilkes-Barre and Lehigh Valley.
Yeah, exactly.
But let's sneak in some Griffins and Bears hockey, no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bryan, thanks a ton. Appreciate this.
All right.
Thanks. All right.